Rick Dollar here for the Rick Dollar Show. And if you can't get us on our national affiliates, please go to iHeartRadio or Spotify and just look up the Rick Dollar Show, and there we will be. My guest today is Miss Alison Brown. Alison, how are you?
Doing great. It's great to see you and hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Finally, we got this done. Let me tell you. Um, I was just looking through all of your accomplishments in life, I guess, whatever Wikipedia knows. And I'll just start with this, okay? IBMA 1991, you were the banjo player of the year. Um, you're it's just crazy to me because I never get to talk to anybody as smart as you. So I'm gonna really sound stupid here in a minute,
I'm really
but
just a banjo player, Rick.
oh, I think you're much more than that, young lady. Believe me. Nominated for several Grammy Awards. You got an Emmy for Foggy Morning Breakdown, which is one of the songs we're going to talk about today. You went to Harvard University and studied history. So that's kind of cool. Went to UCLA and you have an MBA in history and literature. And you worked 2 years with Smith Barney in the wealth management department. Now, I may have to ask you for some stock tips here in a little while, but Alison, this new record you got out is just wonderful, and I think the world is seeing what Alison Brown is all about now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much. That's nice to hear.
Now, you have a counterpart on this first song that we're going to talk about, Bluegrass Radio. Mr. Steve Martin has jumped in there with you on this one, and he's been a big part of what you've done. How did you meet Steve Martin?
Well, that's a good question. I met him through his Banjo Prize board. He started the Steve Martin Banjo Prize about 14 years ago and asked if I would be on the board. And I think that was really the first time that I met Steve. And that was on a phone call.
So
So
you guys just hit it off, huh?
Well, and we kind of got to know each other through the course of being on that board, and then kind of connected a few times along the way. Had a chance to do some shows with him and Martin Short on their tour that they've been doing that behind their Netflix show.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a chance to play together, and over the course of all of that, I got to discover first of all, how great a banjo player Steve is, and how much he loves the banjo, and how much it's really been a part of his life. So it's always a joy to get to play banjos together.
Yeah, if you look at the old footage, Saturday Night Live footage, he jumped on there with the round arrow through his head, and playing the banjo. And my dad was always saying, I never knew he could play the banjo. I just didn't, that just something that did not register with, I guess, the everyday person watching Saturday Night Live at that point. I was, of course, a lot younger back then and didn't really know who I was watching, but
Yeah,
just amazes me.
It's fascinating. I mean, he really is a lifer in the banjo world. He started playing banjo as a teenager. He and John McEwen grew up together and went to high school together in Orange County in California. And so he's like, kind of sat at Doug Dillard's feet.
Oh,
When Dillard's
wow.
came to LA and watched Doug, and then John and Steve were both like needed to get banjos after they heard Doug Dillard play. So that's been a theme that runs really through his whole life. I mean, he really, really loves the instrument.
Is that what put a banjo in your hands?
Earl Scruggs indirectly.
There you go.
I was taking guitar lessons, and my guitar teacher lent me his copy of a Foggy Mountain Banjo, and I just loved the sound of the banjo. So it kind of talked my parents into renting a banjo for the summer. And really, at first struggled to connect with the instrument because I was doing finger pick guitar, and putting picks on my fingers was really challenging. But after a couple of years after that, we moved to San Diego, and I got connected with the San Diego Bluegrass Club. And after that, it was all about banjo for me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you've played with a lot of you've you've played your own style, but there a lot of people like are giving you the Bella Fleck pick style kind of thing. Do you agree with that? Or I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm always honored to be compared to Bela. I can't think of anybody who's done as much for the instrument as in terms of like taking it in so many different directions and carving out so
mhm.
many different paths. I mean, he's such a visionary for the instrument, so I never mind being compared to him at all. Um, I think he and I shared a lot of early influences. I mean, Tony Trischka was obviously Bela's teacher,
Mhm.
and I was growing up on the other coast, but listening to all those same Tony Trischka records. So the notion of taking the banjo, you know, like respecting and loving bluegrass, and then trying to see where else you could go with the instrument, that spirit always really spoke to me. I always really felt like it was really in connection with kind of the spirit that created bluegrass music in the first place too. You think of when I think of Bill Monroe and Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs, I mean, those guys were like punk guys or something at their time, you know, to take those instruments and do something that revolutionary with them,
Oh
play
yeah.
those that tempo. And so innovation to me has always been part parcel of bluegrass music. So certainly banjo players like to push the envelope too, I think.
Yeah, and you've definitely done that. No doubt about it. Let's get a backstory on this song, Bluegrass Radio. It's out now. Of course, it's in full rotation with what we do, but it's just an incredible tune. And I can hear where you've sort of relaxed a little bit. I think you guys relaxed on this song. So
Relax. That's an interesting choice of words. But thank you. I'm glad you liked the tune. It was, you know, the way the tune came about really was just that our had invited Steve to play on my last record. We wrote a song together called well, let's see, I always say the title wrong too. It's called Foggy Morning Breaking. The title comes from John Hartford and a lyric in one of his songs. And I know, of course, he was riffing off Foggy Mountain Breakdown, which we've all said 10,000 times. But John wrote about a foggy morning breaking. So I thought it would be a great title for a tune. And especially since Steve and I both have a connection to John Hartford. But basically, I'd written this A section, Steve wrote a B section, and then we recorded the tune together. And it did, you know, it surprised us both actually to be embraced as warmly as it was on Bluegrass Radio. And so Steve was so excited about that that he wrote the lyrics to Bluegrass Radio, which is the song that we have. And he was really genuinely so thrilled to hear his banjo playing on the radio. And so I just got together a great cast of players. Sam Bush, of course, on mandolin, Stuart Duncan, who I go back with many years, and Todd Phillips on bass, Trey Hensley on guitar. And actually recording the track was so much like falling off a log. Because we all just kind of have like between us, I don't know what, like 359 years worth of experience in bluegrass. And so we've sort of all brought that to bear, and it was just so fun to cut the track. And then Steve really, getting his vocal and banjo part on there was just so much fun. And the whole thing just was really so easy. It was a joy.
Yeah, it just meshes together like you guys just have this synergy. Um, and I guess it's because you just have the love for the banjo so much, but you tell me, I mean, what's the deal with this? I mean, it's just a perfect like the perfect synergy of two people that want to, tell a story.
Yeah, well, that's really nice of you to say. I think you're right. Like we both love the banjo, and
Hmm.
it's kind of a defining element of each of our lives. It's like for me, I can't imagine who I would be without the banjo. It's so much a part of my identity, and in some way, I think that that's true for Steve too. And I think that we both really like to try to find the lyrical side of the instrument. Like we're both
Hmm.
really driven by the melodic side of the banjo. And so we have that in common too. And so when we're writing music together, I think that's part of what makes it so easy to do is I think we're both searching for the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and one thing that I've learned, just knowing banjo players over the year, used to I was really thinking in the direction of the banjo kind of is supposed to complement everything else that's going on, but
Mhm.
you guys and Steve, Steve Martin especially, but Bela has just taught me that the banjo can be the the forefront, the
Mhm.
biggest part of a song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that I have moved into that part of my life where I can recognize that, you know.
I'm glad you have too. I think that's absolutely right. I mean, that's the cool thing about the banjo. It can be a lead instrument, it can be the melody instrument, it can be like the lyrical voice of instrumental music. Even if there's no words, it can really express a lot of emotion. But it's also an awesome accompaniment instrument, and the drive that it brings in a bluegrass band is just the best. And, listening to a lyric and figuring out, like Earl Scruggs was such a master at this, how to complement what's happening lyrically in a song with banjo fills. The art of that is, a lifetime pursuit. So it's such a rich instrument in that way. It's so multifaceted.
Yeah, I mean, would have never thought that when I was younger. I guess I was always looking at different things, you know. But let's talk about Foggy Morning Breakdown. Now,
Mhm.
give me a little bit of a backstory on that one.
Yeah, well, so it's actually called Foggy Morning Breaking. Thank you, Jim Hartford.
See, you see what
See?
happened there?
Yep, exactly. I know I make the same mistake half the time. Well, basically that tune is a product of the pandemic and sitting around with my banjo and double C tuning, which is a tuning that's favored by clawhammer players.
Mhm.
And Steve is a really interesting banjo player because he's kind of a unicorn because he plays three finger banjo, and also clawhammer banjo. And there aren't that many folks that are as good at both, as Steve
Mhm.
is. And so I had my banjo in double C tuning, and I was trying to think of something that would be a nice duet for clawhammer banjo and three finger banjo. And that really comes from how much I loved John McEuen and Earl Scruggs' duet on the Circle album when they did Soldier's Joy. And that was like Earl playing three finger and John McEuen playing clawhammer banjo. And I just have always thought that was the coolest thing. And I've, over the years been trying to think of like another way to put those two voices together on a different tune. So that was a lot of the inspiration for writing a tune in double C tuning. And then I sent the A section to Steve, texted it to him and was like, might you consider, writing a B? And he was like, absolutely. And like within 24 hours, it sent me just the perfect answer to the A section. And so then, because it was a pandemic, we got on a Zoom call and we wrote a bridge, and that became Foggy Morning Breaking. And
There
it
you
took,
go, Foggy
no,
Morning Breaking.
yeah, I
See,
did it.
man, I could mess up a train wreck here, let me tell you. But you know, I remember when I was a kid, I lived in Tennessee, and for some reason in Johnson City, Tennessee, uh, Bela Fleck and the Flecktones,
Hmm.
they played somewhere every weekend around there. And
Wow.
I remember that as a kid because that name stuck in my head because it was, you know, just a different name, you
Yeah.
know. That there
Mhm.
was a classic rock station there that had a concert lineup that they would read every night. And there
Mhm.
was always Bela Fleck and the Flecktones somewhere.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, how strange is that, you know, being an 8, 10 year old kid listening to this on the radio. And then
Mhm.
now we've, you know, he's still such a powerhouse in the industry. Um, but so what you just gonna keep doing this? I mean, you think
Keep
this is,
playing the banjo? I think
yeah,
so.
and just
As long as I can.
pushing Steve Martin around to do more and more and more, you know?
Yeah, it's actually been really easy. He will pop up with an idea, or I'll send him an idea, and then just like the next day there'll be more to it. And we've got a couple. Well, we've actually maybe have 6, 7, or maybe 8 tunes that we're kind of fleshing out. So it's just
Wow.
been a really surprisingly easy collaboration. I mean, I've had the privilege of producing a lot of records for other people and collaborating with other people, and so it's given me the opportunity to appreciate really how unique this collaboration is, because it's so easy and unexpectedly easy. So maybe it's just the double banjo mind. The
That's what it is.
power of two. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, what's the future looking like? I mean, you're already talking about more music that you've got kicked out. So you guys gonna put another one out?
Yeah, we've got a couple that we're gonna tee up for the coming months. We did a collaboration with Vince Gill last month
Oh, wow.
that turned out really nice. I think we'll probably be putting that out in who knows what, late spring, early summer. And yeah, I think we'll just keep doing these tunes together as long as it's fun and they come out well. And you know, continuing to explore two banjos. I mean, so there have been some classic records. I know records that were influential to me that were two banjo records. Like I had the Roy Clark and Buck Trent's record.
Yeah, I
It was
remember
called
that.
Banjo Bandits, and
Uh-huh.
I wore that thing out. And Steve introduced me to a record that Marshall Brickman and Eric Weisberg made, and I think it was called New Dimensions in Bluegrass, that came out,
Wow.
must have been in the early 70s. And I had never heard that record, but it's a really cool record. And it was really ahead of its time. So definitely seems like the world needs another double banjo record. So maybe that's our calling.
There you go. You just stay forward, you know. I think
Yeah,
you're
gotta
gonna I
have a
think
purpose.
I'm telling you. So well I tell you what, are you're looking at taking this thing on the road with a special guest or two?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll see.
I think it'd be a great show somewhere, you know, just to do and have all these people that have influenced you come in and play with you that night. I think that'd
Oh,
be an incredible show.
be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe I'm a promoter at heart.
yeah,
Who
maybe. Well,
knows?
thank you for planting the seed. I like that.
Yeah, there you go. There's an idea.
Good, it's a good one.
Yeah, that's it. It's a good one. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us today, Alison.
My
God
pleasure.
bless you. Everybody around you just seems to be working in sync with you. And that's a lot of big names. It's a lot of weight to carry, but man, you are just it's just crazy. I mean, everything that I hear is just incredible coming from you. So
Well, thank you so much.
yeah,
It really, really means a lot. Truly.
no,
I appreciate
we
you.
we appreciate it, man. We hear a lot of different music every day, and but you guys caught my ear on a few different things, so that was
Oh,
great.
well, stay tuned. There'll be more coming.
Oh yeah, I got you. All
Yeah,
right. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
you too. Thank you so much.
Rick Dollar here for the Rick Dollar Show, and I've been speaking to Miss Alison Brown. Have a good afternoon.